of our sponsors that have helped make this a reality. KC Printing and Promotional, the Local Legends podcast produced by Glockner Car Dealership, and Ohio Brew Week. So big round of applause, big thanks to all of them for the support. And of course, we'll get to the breweries that have joined us here in a minute. So for those of you that have not attended a virtual event yet during COVID, we're using a new platform. I saw someone just put a couple of emojis in the chat here, not in the chat, in the video. And I actually want to make sure you all know how to use those. So what I'm going to ask is put an emoji, look down, it says reactions. Click that button, you'll see a list of different emojis. And click one of those if you prefer local craft beer to boring corporate brands. Pick anyone that you want. Let's see those. Perfect. All right. Put an emoji in chat if you have ever homebrewed. I think we'll see a little bit less. Let's see what we got here. Has anyone ever tried homebrewing themselves? Okay, we've got a couple. All right. And then put an emoji in chat if you've ever wanted to start your own brewery. This will be interesting. All right. Yes. And then the last question here, if you go to the clown, yeah. If you go to the live chat, and if you'll all tell us what you're drinking tonight, if anything, or if nothing, tell us the last craft beer that you drank, and go ahead and put that in the chat here. Let's see what we've got. Under a Cloud, Jackie O's. That's how is that? Is that any good?
You asking me?
Yeah. Okay. First batch of hard seltzer. All right. Very good. Keep putting those in the chat. Let's make sure we all know how to use the chat and keep engagement up for the event. We're making the most of this virtual format. All right. At work. Thanks for joining us, Craig. Appreciate that. All right. So I'm going to hand it off. The first person I'll introduce is Seth Morton. He is the head brewer at Jackie O's. We've got Matt Brinker, the general manager from Sixth Sense, Tyler Malt, the head of operations at Portsmouth Brewing Company, and Brandon Thompson, the executive director of Ohio Brew Week. One last minute thing I want to say is Charles Buchanan II of Morning Dew Hop Farm was set to join us until just about 5 minutes ago. He may still yet be able to join us, but we wanted to give him a quick shout out as well, just in case he can't make it. So with that, I'll hand it off to Brandon for some more in-depth introductions and getting this event started. And I am going to remove myself from the screen here. So thank you all for joining.
See you soon, Dave. All right. I like all the beers popping up. So I'm going to be the moderator. I'm going to start. So just in my little square, I've got Seth, then Matt, and then Tyler. So we're going to go in that order. So I know a lot of people here who are probably from Southeastern Ohio know you guys. What I'd like to ask is who you are. Kind of take me quickly through your career and how you ended up where you are, and did you think you'd be in that position, if you can answer those questions. So let me go ahead and start with you, Seth.
Right on. Well, thank you all for tuning in. My name is Seth Morton, native Portsmouthian, or Friendshipian. I don't even know what we call ourselves, the halfway to stout. It's funny, it would have been more on brand if I was from Stout, Ohio. But yeah, I'm head brewer / co-director of brewing operations here at Jackie O's. This June, I will have been with the company for 10 years. I started as, the 22-year-old to take that heavy thing, move it over there. Got involved with our construction team and started milling some grain, and then worked my way up. It's been a fun ride.
And did you think you'd end up where you are?
No, not a chance. Absolutely not.
Okay.
Yeah, I graduated from OU in 2013 with a bachelor's in mechanical engineering, and that was right when we started the production brewery. And I knew that if I bugged Art Ostrike, our owner, and Brad Clark, our former director of brewing operations, I knew if I bugged both of them enough, they'd give me a gig at the brewery, because I realized something kind of special was happening here. And I bugged them, and they were like, "If you shut up, we'll give you a job." And I said, I'll give it a shot for a year as far as becoming a brewer. And that was in 2013, and I've been here ever since.
Cool. Thanks, Seth.
Yeah, right on.
Go ahead, Matt. So, where you started, take us through your career, and then did you think you'd end up where you'd be right now? So,
Absolutely not. My name is Matt Brinker, general manager for 6 Cents. I bartend. I do the social media. I just got back from doing deliveries. I help the owner with sales, planning, and what we're doing in the future. Things are happening. I've been with the company. It'll be 3 years in January, and I absolutely love it. Favorite job I've ever had. Really just needed a job and had become I also do video production on the side, and I've done a video for 6 Cents, and I was just a customer at the time, and got to know the then taproom manager, Grant, pretty well. He was friends with another friend of mine, and I walked in one day and said, "Hey, I need a job," and he said, "You're hired." And it was because they had a food truck they were adding, and I had food service background and bartending. And then they made the terrible mistake of putting me in charge of the tap room about 2 months later, and then the rest of the from there. So
that's awesome. And Grant's a good guy. I've worked with him. I like it a lot. I got a growler of Merc juice on my way through Jackson once, and he's like, it was like the last one, not the last one, but it was pretty close. But cool, yeah. Appreciate that, Matt.
Yep.
Tyler, same thing for you.
Hi, I'm Tyler Malt. I'm the head of operations at the Portsmouth Brewing Company. I assumed that position around 2013. I continued it for about 4 years. Took a brief hiatus for about 3 years to go to law school. I graduated, and when COVID hit, I assumed the position again. I do a little bit of everything I do all the ordering, I figure out the logistics. I've brewed. I've, attended the events, just kind of the jack of all trades, I suppose. It's family business. I kind of, was thrown into it, so to speak. So here we are.
That's awesome, Matt. So I'm assuming that same thing. You didn't think you'd be in this position as well?
If a 19-year-old me, no.
Like, did you plan on being in this point? And I think that's the thread I'm seeing from the three of you guys is that, you had aspirations to be in this, but, you kind of find out where you fit. If you're brewing, if you're operations, you guys all have different skill sets. And I did want to ask, Tyler, are you the most, qualified person on this panel, you being a lawyer versus the rest of us? I don't know anybody has.
I'm not a lawyer yet.
Okay.
No. Brewing's a lot more technical.
Okay. I didn't get in any trouble with any laws or anything. I just, I'm
two opposite ends of the spectrum. So, I love brewing. The craft brew rev, from, when I saw it start, right as I got out of college, that kind of caught my interest. I went to undergrad for business administration, and then I honestly fell in love with it. Everything from the marketing aspect to, the technical side. Seth, I would say, is the most qualified person on this panel as far as, the scientific technical side from what I know, or for what I've observed. So he'll fill you in on all that, hopefully.
Yeah, well, you guys are all superstars, in my opinion. I was just talking about as far as qualifications in life. I mean, Seth is, brewing and everything like that. But, lawyer, you can go in the real world. I don't know, lawyers. Yeah. So, all right. So I've got a couple questions. Let's do a super easy one right now, just to kind of icebreaker. What is one of your favorite beers? And it doesn't have to be your favorite, just one of your favorite. You can be something you just had that was really good recently. And I'm going to go in reverse order. So we'll go Tyler, Matt, then Seth.
Say that one more time.
What's one of your favorite beers? Doesn't have to be your favorite, but just a beer you just really enjoyed recently, or just one you keep going back to. I know everybody in the chat probably wants to hear, what are these guys into, So, and it can be your own brewery, or it could be something else. So,
well, I'll go ahead. I'll get complicated with it. One of my favorite beers is a beer we haven't brewed in a while. It's a Belgian triple. But as far as a go-to, I mean, I always go back to our Pilsner. It sounds cliche to say, but I mean, if I'm not looking for anything heavy or too hoppy, that's just what I go to. So,
okay.
I think last night I was digging on. We have a beer called Foolish Hands, West Coast IPA, and I was digging on that. Been digging on it for a while since it came out. Our flagship beer, Merc Juice, is always a go-to for me. Anything from Jackie O's. I've not had the pleasure of having much from Portsmouth, but anything from Jackie O's. When I go to deliveries, a lot of times I'll go to the bottle shops and drop off our beers, and I grab things from different places. So I've tried a lot, but I usually my go-to is our own stuff or really Jackie O's stuff at this point. So.
Yeah, I've been having a fun time. I've been kicking back around through breweries that I haven't thought about in a while. Their core offerings. I've been really digging on Bell's as of late. Their porter's fantastic, but I've recently fallen back in love with Two Hearted. Just a really, really extremely well done beer. Decidedly anti-modern, but really, when you think about IPA before we took the bitterness out, Two Hearted slaps.
Nice. Yeah, and it's like too hard. It could be your guys' own beer. I mean, there's a reason you guys work at your locations. I'm assuming you love the stuff that's coming out of there, so I think that's important. So let's see. Let's do a question. Well, I guess, we were talking about this earlier. So COVID's hit. There's a reason we're doing this virtually, not in person. Let's avoid all the bad stuff, as not all the people are able to get together. What is something good that's happened at your guys' brewery because of COVID? So, and Matt, we'll start with you.
Okay. COVID was interesting for us, as I'm sure it was for everybody else. Lockdown was the 15th. We had a website online on the 16th. We had the ability to do growler fills and crowler fills already. And our food truck is a Mexican-style food truck, and it really easily goes in containers to go. We started doing everything online, call in. We actually saw an uptick in business. We were open only 4 hours, 4 to 8 p.m. every day, and we were doing more in sales in those 4 hours online. It was the word I used constantly was pivot. We ran out of crowlers. And after that, we ended up going down to Portsmouth and picking up a 16-ounce can seamer from Party Connection. And then we did that for a while. And then the next week, DeWine announced that we could do cocktails to go. So then we had food to go, beer to go, cocktails to go. And that, that triple head of sales really carried us through everything. It's allowed me, I'm doing QR codes in the tap room now, different things like that I normally wouldn't have tried or done. I was vehemently against call-in ordering or online ordering just because it wasn't what we did. It wasn't what I knew. Mm-hmm. And because of it, it forced me to do that. It forced us to change. And it really, we come out of it and it's been good. So that was the big thing. That and the support of the community. We have a really tight-knit tap room and regulars. We have a beer club here. The support from them it still is mind-blowing. The support the tap room and the brewery and the beer and the food and everything get. So those are all the positives that I really got from everything. So
that's awesome. Yeah, no, I think, and if the rest of you guys, Tyler and Seth, you guys are the support that I've seen during this, even with Ohio Brew Week, we weren't able to have our event. We had to do virtual as the people were buying merch and, sharing pictures from stuff from last year. Like, I missed this, and it's been amazing that, fans, are just coming out and just being like, we miss you guys. I think that's a great feeling. So it's a good answer. Seth, we'll go with you.
Yeah, the big thing for us is doing direct consumer. Mm-hmm. We've been able to do direct consumer in Ohio, DC, Virginia, and Alaska licensing. But being able to connect with people like that, because for a lot of people that travel for beer, when you're in Ohio, we tend to come up in that conversation a lot. But for the longest time, and I think we'll see it for a decent bit of the future, folks like destination breweries are having kind of a hard time right now, like getting over the counter, at the tap room down here, we move a lot of very expensive products, right? So being able to directly connect with those folks and being able to get beer a couple days out to someone in Cleveland instead of them having to drive 4 hours down here, we've realized how important direct to consumer is, and that's worked out really, really well for us.
Yeah, I mean, with everybody being home, and do you guys feel, I guess, your audience is more captive since they're at home and they're reading your online stuff, or do you feel it's like the same with COVID? What do you guys think about that?
I think in the beginning it felt like they were captive because I do all the social media too. I see all the likes and I see everything. In the beginning, it felt like they were captive, and right now it feels like it's gone the other way. social media is way down. But in the beginning, whenever we were in lockdown, I would post something and it would immediately, you'd see the results in the sales. So I think before, from my perspective, they did feel captive, yes, but it doesn't go that way right now.
Gotcha. What about you, Tyler and Seth? What do you guys think of that? Has it been, has it been more captive, or has it gone down or gone up? What's your guys' experience been?
You want me to go first? All right. I don't think so. I mean, at first, yeah, it was like that. But, I mean, our restaurant, since COVID hit, you're talking about what it's helped us, realize, if there's anything we needed to fix or we focus on. I think we dialed back distribution, and I think it helped us get organized. And I think it made us realize how important selling beer at our restaurant was and how that was growing. And so, since we've done that and kind of focused on the restaurant and instead of distribution, I think people, needless to say, I mean, I don't think they felt captive at all. When everything was open back up. I mean, we've stayed pretty busy. Everyone wanted to sit at the bar and have a beer. So, I mean, from what I've seen, no, I don't think they felt captive at all.
Okay. What about you, Seth?
It's been interesting, like reaching out and connecting with people. That's why I was looking forward to this event so much. I haven't talked to anyone in forever. Do I feel like we had a more captive audience at the beginning of quarantine? Possibly. I think given like as quickly as we got to direct to consumer, people are more apt to drink a 15% barrel aged stout in their home than at a bar. But I honestly can't say one way or another.
Okay. It's definitely, like I said, I know there's really no way to measure it. Just kind of want to see what your guys' feeling is, what you've seen and everything like that. So, Tyler, we'll go back to you. So what are, you said you guys switched to working more, selling the beer in-house. Is there anything else positive that's happened because of COVID? Or, I mean, that is a great thing, just, reorganizing, making sure the business model makes sense, for you guys.
Not so much. I mean, I can't really see anything, different about what we've done, other than, dialing back distribution. I think, we just realized how important that was to us. And, I think it was the right way to go. So, I mean, we would want people to come to Portsmouth and I think that's happened. I think, as long as we, serve good beer on tap and the pub's running well, I think, we'll continue to grow.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, we can't beat having people in house, because once they're there with your beer, you can sell them other stuff too. I think that's an important thing, having a physical location, place for people to go. That conversation. I'm sure all of you guys have had those conversations, those regulars that that's that guy is always here, and then you meet them, you find out their story, and then they feel connected to your establishment. They feel like they're part of the experience, which I think craft beer has over other, types of spirits and everything like that. So, all right, well, I'm gonna jump over to some of these questions in the chats. All right, so I've got one question. So the number one question is for you, Seth, asking about Jack Hill's expanding to Columbus, affecting Athens. I know you can't speak about it, so I'm gonna leave that one alone. Just let everybody know in the chat, whatever you've read in the papers about Jack Hill's going to Columbus, that's what they can talk about. It's in process, so just leave it alone. I know you're excited and everything. We're all excited. We're happy for our brewers to move on, but I don't want Seth to lose his job before anything happens. So we're going to leave that stuff alone. So
Greatly embargoed.
Yeah. Let's see. Yeah, I mean, I guess this is a question for you guys. Has anyone had issues with customers not following COVID protocols, and how have you dealt with them? I know that's a thing that we're worried about. We want to be open, and we feel people can control themselves, but there's this discussion that bars are irresponsible and all this stuff, and you guys aren't doing the right thing, and that's why they shut you down. But if that has happened, what's it been experience? Is that kind of an outlier, I guess? And so we'll start with you, Tyler.
Could you rephrase the question one more time? Sorry, I was reading a message.
Yeah, no worries. Have you had any issues with the customers not following COVID protocols? And if so, how did you deal with them?
Yeah, most definitely. When I'm not there, we have certain staff members to take care of it. When I've been there, to be honest, when people get a little bit disruptive about, not wearing their face mask or, or rebuttaling with, you're infringing on my rights. Well, then I just break the wall out. We're a private business. We're not excessively entangled with the state government. Talk with them. I mean, I'm just doing my job, man. Usually, if you just have some logical explanation, a lot of them calm down, but some of them don't, and you have to escort them out. It's a tough situation. I think it's prevented tough situations for everybody. I'm sure Seth's seen it. I'm sure Matt's seen it. There's not much you can do other than handle it reasonably and move on.
So I want to follow up with that, and I'm going to ask, Matt and Seth is, do you guys, so when that happens, do you feel like the person who's doing this, realizes they could potentially shut your business down? Cause we talked about how all of our fans your brewers are, they're in it and they're excited for it and they're captive, but then someone not wearing their mask, they might get in trouble. You guys could get shut down, if the government comes in and sees that. So do they see it? Do you think they see it that way? Or are they just like, whatever, I'm drunk. I just want to do what I want to do.
Seth, you want that first?
Well, I wanted to talk about, and give a huge shout to our front of house team here at the tap room, as well as the folks uptown. The way we run it, and we post it up very clearly, these are the rules for the playground. If you don't play by the rules, you don't get to go down the slide. And we've seen, and I've had people tell me this, and we've seen more college students coming down here because, Brandon, you've seen Court Street on a Saturday evening. It's a bloodbath up there.
Yep.
But we've seen, an uptick of college students coming down here. Obviously, Athens is a big university town. But the front of house team has done such a killer job here that we've seen more, not necessarily more because we're at lower capacity, but people come here because they know that we do everything right. Folks want to come down here because they know that they can have a beer safely and that their table's sanitized and that everything is done to the T. Do you run into some folks that don't get it? Absolutely. And I feel for our front of house team that has to deal with that. But we've seen folks, it's that brand loyalty. People are more enthusiastic to come here because they know they can do it safely.
Okay. What about you, Matt?
Yeah, we've had a good mix of good and bad experiences with people too. A lot of times, someone will come in and they don't have a mask or whatever. We just try to be very, very understanding. Hey guys, you have a mask. We can provide one for you if you don't have it. I haven't had anybody really, really, really get testy with me. We did have to throw somebody out that was really intoxicated last night, but that was a completely different thing. But I think one of the biggest things is my head bartender, Colby, is like the nicest person on the planet. And he's very good about going, hey guys, I'm sorry, can you do this? Can you do that? We all try to handle things that way. People seem to be pretty understanding when we handle it like that. And we really haven't had much of an issue. I've gone through a lot of disposable masks though, because there's a lot of people that are coming in, don't have it, forgot, whatever. But that's just par for the course now. And I don't know. I think you asked, do they view it as they can get us shut down? I don't really know what's in their head, but I view it as, and I always say, guys, look, our liquor license and our food vendor license is more important than anybody's opinion. This is my livelihood. This is Colby's livelihood. This is Kristen's livelihood. It's my owner's income and all that too. It matters to all of us. So here's a mask. Please stay distant. Please this. Let me wipe that down first. And people have been really, really understanding with us so far. So
that's awesome. Yeah, I like to think everybody that steps into your guys' establishments are just huge fans of the place and they get that, but I just feel like a lot of people don't realize that and that it's their right. And, they just cause more trouble. And then, all it takes is somebody taking a picture of someone without a mask and saying, oh, I was at Portsmouth and they didn't have a mask on. And then, that's not the story, but once it's up there, you're the front page and Mike DeWine's talking about you at the press conference. And this is why we got to shut the bars down at 8 o'clock or something, So anybody watching this, please, just do your job, put your mask on so we can stay longer. 10 o'clock's working, but we like to go a bit later. So if we do our job, maybe Mike will allow us to go later, So, all right. So I got a couple more questions over here. Yeah, I guess here's a good question. Is it cheaper to bottle or can during COVID? So let's start with you, Tyler. We'll go to Matt, and then we'll go to Seth.
Well, right now we're only bottling, so I'm going to go ahead and I really don't know the answer to that.
Okay.
Seth could probably give you a better idea.
Well, I guess have you guys had any changes, I guess, with materials and stuff during COVID or anything with costs going up or?
We haven't really been bottling. We've just like I said, we dialed back distribution. We've just been putting stuff in kegs and selling it in house. So
Okay.
that's what we've done. We haven't really tried to push the envelope in distribution very much.
Okay.
We are exclusively, so I'm not sure about bottles and cans versus. I don't know. We have had some issues initially we had issues with crowler stock. I had just recently had a delay in growlers. It wasn't bad. It just took a little bit longer than I thought it should. And then we've had to be looking ahead on our can stock. I've got one pallet of cans, and I've got another one on the way. And then when that other pallet gets cracked into, I've had to be a little more diligent about that and looking ahead. I don't know about the prices. I haven't seen the invoices.
Mm-hmm.
Our supplier did make us this time, though, and instead of order half pallet, we had to order a full pallet. So that was more cost, but long term, I don't think it's really going to matter. We're going to use them anyways. So.
Mm-hmm. Okay. What about you, Seth?
Yeah, well, we bottle a significantly smaller volume than which we can, and we're canning a lot more now because accounts aren't picking up draft. So pretty much everything. There's a lot of core beer down there that's pretty much all getting run through the canning machine.
Mm.
The aluminum shortage has been a pretty stressful thing. Silver bullets, so blank, unlabeled cans are pretty hard to come by these days. We've had to have some, tense talks with the folks at with Ball, because even to Ball, we're pretty small potatoes. Their big customers are big customers. And I mean, we can a lot of beer, but we still don't buy a lot of cans relative to what they produce. Aluminum's been tough. Bottles, we've got a pretty good stock. From what I've heard, we haven't seen any issues with bottles, but it's because we don't go through a lot of them. Aluminum's been difficult.
Okay. So I want to shift gears and ask a question. There's some people here who are interested in opening their own brewery and working for a brewery. What makes being located in Southeastern Ohio either special or different? And we'll start with Seth, then we'll do Tyler, and then we'll do Matt.
Yeah, so like I was saying earlier, I'm from Southeastern Ohio, Southern Ohio, and then have been in Athens for the last 11 years. But what makes it special down here?
Special or different, or what separates us from other places?
Well, I mean, there's locality. We're starting to see. I'm sorry that Casey wasn't able to join us this evening. We've got a burgeoning industry of supply to really tell the story of Southeastern Ohio. We've got a lot of pawpaws. We got a lot of spice bush. We're looking into getting some malting grade grain grown around here. A good friend of mine, Andrew Martahus of House Malts up in Cleveland. That's the homie right there. We buy tens of thousands of pounds of Ohio grown malted oats from Andrew. Grown in Ohio, malted in Cleveland. We buy a lot of it. Pretty much all of our hazy beers have some Ohio grown and malted oats in them. But I mean, Ohio geographically, pretty rad state. I mean, we've got kind of the lush forests of Southeastern Ohio. We've got places to grow grain. We've got water of two different varieties. We've got the lakes up north. We've got the river down south. It's a very geographically dynamic state. And there's a lot to tap into. And it's a really cool state to be able to tell the story of.
Cool.
Next.
Yeah, go for it.
All righty. So I would say, being located in a small town or Southern Ohio, I think it's a positive thing. A lot of our customers who drink our beer, or come to the pub, or have drank it for a while. They're very loyal people. I mean, the culture just, once they switch, and they'd love to support you. Once you can convince them to switch from a Bud Light, to a craft beer, which is sometimes a tough thing to do. It seems like here in Portsmouth, we're behind the 8 ball a little bit when it comes to everything, but we're catching up, and we're getting there. So, loyalty and just seeing the same folks and knowing the same folks and knowing that they support you. It's definitely a positive thing, and it's growing. So I don't really have anything negative to say about it. I think it's a very positive thing.
Awesome. Same thing for you, Matt.
Yep. I think for me, I think my favorite part about where we are and what we have going on is, I mentioned earlier, the community, the beer club people. We're in a pretty nice spot, really. We're right in the middle of 35 runs north, 32 runs east to west. We're 45 minutes from Athens. We're 50 minutes from Portsmouth. You've got Chilla Coffee 30 minutes north, Gallipolis south. Circleville's an hour. Columbus is only an hour and a half. We get a lot of travelers that come through. And that's a really cool dynamic to see, especially when the travelers come through in the tap room and then they see the bartenders with the regulars and they see the community. And it's really cool for us to have that dichotomy back and forth of, hey, I came from Cincinnati and we're over here talking to a regular that we know, their kids, we know what they're doing, we know their kids' sports and all that stuff. And I think that's really my favorite part about where we are and what we have going on is just, Jackson's a small town. And it's a really tight-knit community, and it's really cool to see the community in the tap room, and then to have other people come through and see that too is pretty cool. So
definitely, yeah. I mean, Athens, Portsmouth, Jackson, these are all little small towns with their own kind of style, and Southeast Ohio is kind of its own. I was born in Athens, its own little part to the state, and so like I've always enjoyed. When I started with Ohio Brew Week, my job is to celebrate craft beer, but if it was bad, I'd still say it was good. But I love that you guys make it easy for me. It was always like, hey, you do good beer. I'm not have to lie about it. When I first started, Portsmouth and Jackie O's were there, and then I think, let's see, how long's Sixth Sense been open, Matt? Again, is it?
It'll be 4 years in February.
Yeah, so that was my second year that you guys came on. I was like, yeah, we got you in the pigskin and everything. So all I'm saying is I appreciate you guys being good at what you do, because it would be a lot harder. Because if I had to lie about Portsmouth or Jackie O's or something, like, oh yeah, they're great. I don't know, but yeah, that's something I found that we are in this area and that people really celebrate our breweries here because they are hometown breweries. We know the people, they come in. Like Tyler's talking about, get them switched from the Bud Light. It's the same thing up here in Athens. People want to switch over. We were talking about seltzers, really taking over. We've got to get those people back over the craft beer. There's something for everybody, is what I always tell people with Brew Week. We've got over 300 beers. There's going to be something you haven't tried that's going to hit that taste or whatever. So I want to ask a question for you guys. So what advice do you have for someone that wants to either start a brewery or start home brewing? You guys are all in different areas of the craft beer industry. So, Seth, we'll start with you, then we'll go to Matt, then we'll go down to Tyler.
Well, can we start with home brewing and then advice for
home
brewing? Home brewing, don't get discouraged.
Okay.
I have made personally back in the day, 5 batches of homebrew, and the only one that wasn't complete hot trash was Brad gave me some second runnings for the week work that came off of Dark Apparition. Took that back to my college apartment, 5-gallon stock pot that I borrowed from the kitchen at Jackie O's, and trying to boil 5 gallons of liquid on an electric stove. Don't use an electric stove, I guess, is the best advice that I can give. Do not get discouraged. Keep it clean, treat your yeast well. Read.
Okay.
And if you think that you can get away with skipping a step or not doing something, if the book says it, I skipped a lot of those steps, and that's why my homebrew was trash.
Gotcha. Okay.
When it comes to commercial brewing, actually, Matt and I were talking about this before we hopped on. When it comes to building around 40,000 barrel a year production brewery, what we've learned is you want to build your brewery from the back to the front. So start with investing heavily at a production brewery. Invest heavily in your packaging equipment, because cheap packaging equipment will burn you 10 times out of 10. Invest in process control. If you come and you see our 20-barrel brew house, we do have some luxuries to it, but we don't have air actuated valves. It's not operated by like a PLC or like a touchscreen. It's still a relatively manual brew house, and we get 4 batches out in a day. And we're turning some word off the thing, but as we grow older as a brewery, we're realizing the process control and the stuff that looks expensive is a lot of times worth the money. Starting with your packaging equipment and the ergonomics of packaging equipment and making things easier on your operators is where you want to start. Ergonomic factors are extremely important in a food processing plant, which is what a brewery is.
Cool.
The brewers will be fine.
What's that?
The brewers will be fine.
They'll make it work. Perfect. Appreciate that answer. Go ahead, Matt.
I'm predominantly in the tap room, bartending and all that stuff. I think my best advice, if anybody wants to start, and this is just simple, but you have to have good product. The market is saturated with so many good beers. You have to have good product. And then I think that also extends, for me, I always talk to people about 4 facets of what we try to do every day in the tap room. Good beer, good food, good cocktails, and then excellent service. And same thing as having good beer everywhere. The market's saturated with places that are great, have great food, have great cocktails, have great service. To stand out, you've really, really got to make sure you focus on the quality control of those things and just being, customer first, good product. And I guess what I constantly am talking about with my bartenders, hey, this is what we want to do in this situation. Hey, this beer, that beer poured flat, dump that out, get them a good beer, take care of the customer. And that also has led, again, to building the community here. I think it's super, super valuable. The best thing we ever did, in my opinion, was start a beer club. They pay an upfront fee to be a part of the beer club. They get a bigger glass that stays in the brewery, and they drink out of that bigger glass. And it created a really cool, tight-knit community of people that come. They all know each other. Pre-COVID, we would do events a couple times a year for them. They get a shirt, they get a koozie, those things. It was super, super, super good for us because it really latched a lot of people onto the brewery and the tap room and built that community out. So,
cool. Thanks, Matt.
Yep.
Same thing for you, Todd.
I'm just going to start, from a general perspective. I'm not going to go into, home brewing and just starting a brewery in general. Read, as Seth said. First, I would just read, soak up everything you can. Brewing's very technical. You got to be very precise if you're looking to brew a certain beer. So, read, take notes. Also go find somebody like Seth who knows what they're doing on the technical side. Find them at the bar, go and pick their brain. So not to throw you under the bus, Seth, but I don't want 30 people that are attending to go to Athens and try and find Seth. But,
he's a friendly guy. He'll catch you up. He's a friendly guy. I'll test to that.
You can handle it. But yeah, that was very instrumental in getting me catching my interest. A guy by the name of John Mallett, who he plays a big part in Bell's Brewery. He built our brewery, put all the tanks in and stuff, and now he's one of the craft beer gurus. And so we took a trip up to see him, and he remembered, and he was very friendly and very knowledgeable, and he helped us out a lot, with growing and kind of adapting to the craft beer rev and being innovative with our beers. So just find somebody that knows what they're doing and take notes and follow them around and read. That's all I got.
No shortcuts. I mean, that's what it sounds like. No shortcuts in this. I've heard that twice from. Oh, Seth's got something to say.
John Mallett helped set up the brewery.
Yeah, he built it.
That's really, really rad. That's awesome. To parlay into that, you can reach out, go to our website. If you have any questions for me after this, just fill out the question form on the website and I'll get back to you as quickly as I can.
Yeah, and I guess I don't want to speak out of turn, but I'm assuming anybody on this panel, if you guys have other questions about their brewery or just want, reach out to them. As we know, like same with the Brew Week, when people reach out, like that's the kind of stuff we like to talk about. Not we're gonna get this and why isn't this here? It's like, hey, I just have a question about your business, or I support that. People love that, getting that stuff. Like, hey, I'd love to talk you through this. So.
Yeah, it's the favorite part. It's my favorite part of the day is like fielding questions through the website. So if anyone has any questions, man, I'm going to have a really busy tomorrow.
Yeah. But, you got all these people. You brought this upon yourself.
He can handle it.
Well, guys, I do have to leave, but David's going to take over for the rest of the questions. Matt and Tyler, it's awesome to meet you guys.
Yep, as well.
We are going to work together next July for Brew Week 16. We're going to be in person. Everybody here, knock on wood. I'm going to knock on the wood panel behind me. It's going to be good, but I do have to leave. But this has been great. Everybody in the chat, come check us out at Ohio Brew Week. We'll be doing the 16th annual. It's actually the longest running week-long craft beer festival in the nation. We just found this out last year. We were going to announce that very big during Brew Week 15, which is our 15th, but then COVID hit. But hopefully we're out of this. And that happened right here in Southeastern Ohio. So just keep that in mind. That's something, without your guys' help, that wouldn't be the case, So, but yeah, David, thank you so much for having me on. This was great. Hopefully we can work again together. I'm sorry Casey couldn't be here, but that's someone else we've worked with Brew Week. This has been a great little thing that you guys are doing. And next time we'll do it in person. So
thanks, man.
Awesome.
Nice to meet you. Thanks.
Thank you for joining, Brandon.
Yep.
So
thank you.
What we're going to do now is I'm going to ask one more question to the group here. We're going to go back to those tables that you all saw earlier, and we're gonna break out into those tables for just 5 to 10 minutes, give people a chance to reflect and come up with some really interesting questions, and then we're going to come back to this presentation mode for Q&A. And the interesting part about that is there is a separate Q&A question section, and you can vote on the top questions there, and we can actually bring people up on stage that want to ask a question, and they get we get to see you, and you get to ask your question there and hear the response. So that's going to be pretty cool. We're looking forward to that. The last question before we break out into those small groups, we had someone that really wanted to make sure we got to the question before they might have to leave, and that was about online ordering. And I wasn't sure if either of you three mentioned this before, but do you have any online ordering systems? Have you embraced online ordering? Have you not embraced online ordering? What does that look like for you guys? And I guess we'll start. Seth, you're right above me, so if you want to go first.
Yeah, I can't speak too much to that. I can speak a little bit about the direct-to-consumer stuff. We've been lucky to work with folks at Craft Peak, P-E-A-K. They have helped us out a lot with getting our new website going and getting direct-to-consumer figured out. As far as online reservations up at the public house and stuff like that, I can't really speak to that too much.
Yeah, part of that I think is people want to know how to support you guys. I know that we did a Jackie O's giveaway, and we were able to just order the hoodie online to send to the winner. And just so everybody knows, we do have another giveaway at the end here. For everyone when we are in the Q&A section, we're going to do a random giveaway. So stay tuned for that. But yeah, so I guess, online orderings in terms of both beer and just, merch, if you've got that for people to support you. So yeah. So I know, Seth, that you guys have that. Matt, what about 6th Sense? Have you guys embraced digital at all or purposely not?
Yes. I said earlier that I was actually kind of against Zapper worked a certain way pre-COVID, and we were all very comfortable with that. It was very easy. We knew the flow, and I was very against call-in online ordering because it was going to mess with that. But when the lockdown was announced, we had to go that direction. And now we've got we use a Square system to check people out with Taproom, and Square automatically comes with an ability to build out websites. So that's why it was so easy for me to. Plus, being the social media guy too, I had all the content for the website already. I didn't have to go collect it. So it was super easy for me to use the Square system, build the website, put all the content on there. We sell food, beer, cocktails online. We'll call in. And then we did do shipping once, and it was kind of a pain in the butt for us. So we don't really have the staff to be able to do that at the moment. Something we might get back to eventually. We can't ship as far as Jack goes, but we can ship around the state. But yeah, the Square system I love. And then, like I said, their platform is called Weebly, and I was able to build out a website very quickly. Again, if you have the content already, it's super easy. We fully embraced it, and that actually ended up when we reopened. I had to bring in a third person every shift in the tap room to take care of the online orders and the call-in orders and all the carry-out business we were getting from that. So it's been really good for the business.
Yeah, absolutely. That makes a lot of sense. I'm glad that you're saying that by embracing that, you were able to kind of bring someone else in to do that work, because that's pretty cool. Tyler, what about down here in Portsmouth? Have you guys embraced digital or purposefully maybe not embraced digital? What does that look like?
I wouldn't say. I mean, it depends on how you define embrace. I don't think we've taken advantage of it. Like I said, since COVID hit, we've tried to bring people to the brewery. So, I mean, we haven't really embraced it, as far as selling merch online. And we have a website. That's about as far as we've gone so far. I anticipate, growing at some point. We'll see, but that's about all I've got for you right now.
So you are considering, breaking in there, investing into that, but right now you're sticking to the brewery, to the tap room, to the in-person.
Yeah, I definitely think it would be beneficial. I don't know what brewery wouldn't want to explore it. So, I anticipate that we'll get into it at some point. But, we would love to sell merch to somebody from Colorado or send beer to Alaska, like Seth. So.
Right, people that miss Portsmouth Brewing Company and want to order some Redbird from Alaska or something. Yeah.
That would be fine, yep.
All right, so I'll tell you what, guys. We are going to break back out, and Derek, I'm going to ask you to break us out into the tables here, to the lounge, and we'll give it 5 to 10 minutes. We'll break out into tables, and if you guys could each kind of come up with a really interesting question, we'll put it in the question section, and then start bringing people up to the stage to ask those questions. So this is my favorite part of the event. Can't wait to see what you guys come up with. Derek, if you could.
Up now.
There we go.
All right, I think we're good to go here. All right, so welcome back, folks. What we're going to do now is, if you will put your questions in the question and answer section, or raise your hand, we will start getting through these. So I'm just going to go down the list here. Rapid fire round to start off, and we'll just go from me and then counterclockwise here. What is the most difficult brew that you've had to brew? And we'll start with Tyler. Most difficult recipe. What do you got?
The most difficult recipe. Well, probably our Vulcan Dark Lager, and I wouldn't say it was hard to brew, but we had issues with it, keeping, sustaining it, preserving. But we figured that out eventually, and that's probably been the toughest part as far as me personally brewing a beer has gone.
Mm-hmm.
Now, don't criticize me, Seth.
All right, Seth, what do you got? Most difficult brew.
Barrel aged beer is massively difficult. It's something that we obviously do a lot of, but it's when you're brewing a beer, just an IPA or Ricky or Chomalumma or anything. When a beer's down there. And that's the production space that I'm pointing to. You're essentially putting a biological process in a headlock. You're saying malt, you're going to do this, yeast, you're going to do this, hops, you're going to do this. But as soon as beer hits oak, you go from the driver's seat to the passenger seat. And that's the point in which you're not in charge anymore. You have to listen. You have to, sample and spend a lot of time with barrels and listen to what they want. Because they'll tell you, but it's a hard thing to call as to, is this beer going to get better if it's in a barrel for a longer amount of time, or is this the point where we take the picture? That's the millennial take the picture, in visible form. But when do you take the picture and say, okay, rack this out of barrel, get this packaged, get it going? It's an exercise in futility because you see, anywhere from, we're getting pretty good these days, but you see anywhere between 5 to 10% loss on a product that has a pretty high price tag on the back end. When you have to dump a barrel that goes bad and it's thousands of dollars going down the drain, that's kind of disheartening. But it's that that give and take of control, not in control of barrel aged beer. That's the most difficult thing.
That an excellent analogy, by the way. I never would have thought about it like that. But yeah, that is interesting. I'll have a new appreciation every time I have a barrel aged beer. All right, Matt, 6 cents. What do you got? Most difficult brew?
I wish our assistant and head brewer were in here because they would love this. I know the beer that we always joke about and the beer that Donner cusses about the most was a rye beer. And the way the wort goes into the boil kettle, we've got pumps, so it sucks the liquid down and it sucks it and pushes it into the boil kettle. And something about the rye, the grains, Seth would know more about this than me, but it's very sticky, and the mash gets what they call stuck, where the liquid can't move through it. And I think it was supposed to take him 5 hours per total brew day. It was like an 8-9 hour brew day because it kept getting stuck over and over and over and over again. Yes, rice hulls, I know that. But there's some I don't remember what it was because we've always used rice hulls, and that one beer in particular got stuck over and over and over again and caused Donner fits. So I don't think that was called Roggenrola, and I don't think we'll ever make that one again. One of our beer club members, it was his favorite beer we ever had though, and he wants us to bring it back constantly, but I don't think we're going to do that one. So,
well, I'm sorry to hear that.
Beers that are cursed.
Yeah.
I really, really love rye. I love rye whiskey. I love rye beers.
Yeah.
But rye is a very fickle grain to work with. It'll ruin your day.
Yeah. We've been using a little bit of it in some IPAs. We made one called Rye Beans. That turned out super, super good. But little bits of it okay. The rye he had, I guess, was too much. So.
That's interesting. See, I'm learning something with each question here, so at least it's for my benefit.
I'll add something to that to kind of piggyback off of Matt. We once used hops, fresh cone hops, and we had never used them before. We always used pellets, dropped them in there without a bag. That created a problem similar to Matt's. Yeah, it's big. Just if you're going to use hops, use pellets, and if you're going to use fresh hops, use a bag.
Good times taking the heat exchanger apart.
Say that one more time.
Did you guys have to take the heat exchanger apart?
Yeah.
Oh, that's like the worst job.
Yeah.
Something similar like that happened early on in our brew house too. So
yeah, we all feel that. Yeah.
That might be a universal mistake, maybe.
If you're going to be a brewer, roll with the punches.
That's good advice. You all should pay attention to that. I like that. All right, so the second question here that we're going to get to is stories behind the names of your beers. And the specific question is about, I guess there isn't a specific beer in here they're mentioning. But yeah, either the best stories or whatever you think the best name is for one of your beers. I guess we'll go reverse order here. Matt, if you want to start.
Well, there's a group chat, and it's the owner, Jamie, and the head brewer, Donard, and then Grant and myself. We call it Hop Council. It's just a nickname I threw onto it just so I could find it easier in my messages. The conversations that are had in this group are everywhere. And I think that's where a lot of our names come from. We've got beers. We did cotton candy, candy-coated clowns most recently. We've got a beer we're canning called Vroom Vroom Bonita. There's a beer called Hey Cowboy we brewed. The inside joke is there's a regular who works on a farm, and every time he'd see me, he'd go, "Hey, cowboy!" And it became a game between him and I to see if we could be the one to say it to the other person first before they saw you. And to the point where we'd play hide and seek and do it sometimes. So we've named a beer called Hey Cowboy. There's a regular who literally never wears anything besides shorts, no matter how cold or snow or ice. All shorts all the time got brewed. There's a kid that we called Stoop Kid affectionately, and we called beer Stoop Kids. We take inspiration from everything around us, the regulars, each other. There's a couple other kind of funny names that if you look on our Untapped, it's like, where did they come up with that? One was named after me. I won't disclose that one. But then we take inspiration from everywhere around us. So.
Gotcha. So if you show up consistently enough, you might get a beer named after you, is what you're saying.
Yeah, well, I think
okay.
We can have it.
Gotcha. All right. Seth, what about you guys?
Maybe tell two quick ones. Years ago, we had done a beer that was a traditional Polish style called Grotzer. It's brewed with oak smoked wheat, so it tastes like barbecue, but it's 3.5% like pale beer. But the smoke kind of put people off a little bit. The smoke character from the smoke malt. We had a hard time because it was on the draft list just as Grotzer, and I'm sure a lot of y'all know a lot of our beers have some pretty interesting names. But I was in the grain room one day, and I was looking for a bag of malt, and I found a bag of oak smoked wheat, and I was like, smoke weed every day. So I hit up our pub brewer, and I hit up our director of brewing operations, and I was like, hey, we got to change the name of this beer today to smoked wheat every day. And they sold the rest of the batch in 2 days.
That is amazing.
So that's one thing. The other beer, one that's out right now, our limited release beer for this season, it's called Cool Beans. It's a golden ale with coffee, little Scotia lactose, kind of trying to, sort of in the vein of like blonde stout, but a lower ABV coffee beer. And you know, every 90s kid knows about Cool Beans. And that was our pub brewer, Liam McDonald. That was, I believe, the first recipe that he wrote when he became pub brewer. And it's like the best name ever to connect with 90s kids. And surprisingly, no one had taken it yet. That's the big thing about names. I know all of us struggle with this. It's like, oh, that's the best name. It's like, oh, man, 48 other breweries already took it. I guess if 48 breweries have taken it, you're like, yeah, I can call a beer that. But if only one brewery's taken it, you might get a C&D, cease and desist in the mail.
Yeah.
I was
wondering. Yeah.
But yeah, Cool Beans, I think, is the best name and the best story. On shelves now.
Interesting. That is very interesting. I had wondered about, using names that were already taken. So I'm glad you mentioned that. All right, Tyler, what about Portsmouth Brewing Company? Obviously I know a few of your names, but what do you got? What would you say is your favorite name for the beers you guys have?
Oh man, most of our names, are kind of an ode to Portsmouth history. You got the Redbird Ale, the Redbirds, the minor league team. But one that I kind of had a part in naming was the Circleville Pumpkin Ale, so I'm kind of biased towards it. Most of our beers have an ode to Portsmouth. Well, we decided to give a shout out to Circleville, so that was kind of neat. You talk about Southern Ohio. I mean, that's the beginning of Southern Ohio, and we were able to identify with another community and honor them. So, that was important to me, and I enjoyed doing it. So that's probably my favorite name.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things I want to mention, and it was thrown up in the chat here, we were on the Glockner Local Legends podcast the other day, and we know that you guys have the Bernie G beer, I guess. And do you have anything you can speak to about kind of that partnership between the Bernie G beer, Glockner's, and the Portsmouth Brewing Company.
Sure. That's one of my favorite names. Bernard Glockner, it's kind of an ode to a family member and an entrepreneur in Portsmouth. The Glockner family has been here for generations, and that's really neat, to show the history of their family and Portsmouth for that matter. We already kind of had a history themed, what I deem a history themed brewery, and it was pretty cool to honor, the Glockner family, and we're really good friends with them. They're Tim Glockner's my dad's neighbors, so they got together one night while they were throwing back some craft beers, I'll bet, and while I was in law school, they created Bernie G, just a late night conversation, I'd say.
Yeah, that kind of makes sense.
Something I want to circle back to real quick if we can. I've noticed in terms of names for beers, the name can sell it completely, like Seth talked about, or people don't want to talk about it. They don't want to order it in the tap room. They don't know how to pronounce it. Simple names like a Merc Juice and a Foolish Hands have really worked well for us. And I find that a lot of our regulars end up saying, "Give me a Merc," or "Give me a Hands," or "Give me something easy to order." So we do try. There's a lot of names that come out way bigger in the beginning, and we'll shorten them down and find something. I think that's super important when you're talking about ease for the customer and taking the friction out of ordering and all that. So
I'll play off of that.
Yeah.
A good name is really, you got to have a good product. You got to have, good liquid. But a good name will help sell your beer as much as anything, whether, you want a history lesson behind it, whether, it's comical or it's something they can relate to off of a TV show. That's just a great marketing tactic. Merc reminds me of MIRC. I don't know if anybody ever got on the chat room back in the day. I'm sure Seth did. Yeah, so I love Merc Juice. If it's on tap, I'll definitely buy a pint. So
is that nobody in the brewery knew like the gaming culture what Merc was before I came in. So I was like, is this named because it's like Merc Juice, like that meaning? But it was named Merc Juice for murky, hazy is what it was named for. But that was it was like, hey guys, did you know this? I came into the brewery. That was kind of a funny little thing that happened.
Started in the streets, ended up the name of a beer.
Yeah. Can we brew that beer at 6 cents?
Do what?
Can we brew Merc MIRC juice at 6 cents?
Jamie's in here, I think, so maybe we can make that happen.
Dude, I'm totally down. I'll drive out for that.
We do another Jackie O's collab?
Not opposed.
Okay.
Tyler, you coming out?
You can shoot me the invite. I'll be there.
Ooh, I like where this is going.
Look at that.
Yeah.
David, your schedule pretty open?
Mine?
Oh, you said me? What did you say? Yeah, absolutely. Are you kidding me? I'll be there. I like what's happening here. Yeah.
Square deal.
We can make this work.
I've got a bunch of really cool hops coming in. We can do an IPA called Merc Juice.
Awesome.
We'll make it.
I'm not checking that one in, but I'll be all right.
Hey, if the offer's on the table, I'll be there. So there is something you guys mentioned in that whole string was about the name and people recognizing the name when they sit down at a bar, right? You want them to know what to get. And so this next question kind of builds off of that. How important is it for your front of house staff to be able to talk about the beer, to be able to be educated about either the brewing process, the beer that you've got, and do you have a process for training that staff? What does that look like for you guys? So, front of house staff at the brewery, what does that look like? And I guess we'll start. Seth, you haven't gone first yet, so we'll throw it off to you first.
Yeah, well, that's the funny thing. Coming up with these names, I went up going a real deep dive on Wikipedia, and as a company, we need to donate to Wikipedia because of all of the marketing and names that it's given me. But you can come up with some really highfalutin, heady concept. But the other thing is your front of house person has to be able to tell that story to the customer in, I don't know, Matt, what do you think? Like 15 seconds or less?
Yeah, 15 to 30.
This is like almost too long. We have a beer that's like very important to Jackie O's and the Ostrike family, called Choma Lungma. It is the sister name for Mount Everest. It was named for when our owner Art's brother Brian summited Everest to raise money for lung cancer research, which is what took Jackie Ostrike, Jackie O's, non-smoker, but that she wound up that lung cancer took her. It's a shame that I never got to meet her, but the beer that was brewed is a one-off for that. For Brian's ascent of Everest on May 23rd, 2007, which is a one-off brown ale, called it Choma Lungma. When we started the production brewery, that was our third, maybe fourth bestseller at the pub, and we've been doing it in cans since 2013. But good gravy, is that that name is a pretty hard sell. And that story, that took me 45 seconds to get most of the way through it. When it comes to naming and like telling the story of a beer, it's really important that your front of house folks are able to convey that story in, Matt, like 10 to 15 seconds, you know?
That kind of makes sense. 10 to 15 seconds. I'm just thinking about my own experience saying, hey, what is this new beer I see on the menu? So that does kind of make sense. Tyler, what have you got in terms of front of house staff and making sure they're familiar with the story of either the beer, Portsmouth Brewing Company? What does that look like?
Well, typically they just come and find me, but if you want to know the honest truth. But no, it's very important. A lot of customers will come in and they want to know the history behind it, and so it's kind of repetitive for me, but a lot of them catch on when they see me do it, or they'll ask me kind of when they're sitting down having a beer behind the bar after their shift. So I was on to something. I can't remember what it was.
So more of an informal process, just being there and making sure people are familiar.
Yeah, that's important. I mean, you'll come in and you'll have COVIDs. Honestly, it's caused some customers to become a bit more impatient. You have your beer snobs come in and not only ask about the name, but the ingredients. And some of our servers have no idea, but they do their best. We've been short staffed at some points during COVID, so we try to overcome what we can, and they'll come and find me. I'm usually around, so they normally enjoy a good history lesson or good name.
So it's your responsibility basically.
Most of the time, yeah.
And so Matt, you're the general manager. What is your process for training staff there for front of house?
I am very, very, very hands-on with all my staff. There are only 5 bartenders, including myself, the tap room on a weekly basis. I handpick them. I hire them. I typically work with them for a very long time, training them. It's to the point now where the head bartender, Colby, if someone asked us the same question apart, we'd give the same answer because he just knows I have a spiel. If someone walks in and they go, hey, have you had any of our beer before? And they go, no. You go, okay, well, so right there in the middle of the board, number 7, Merc Juice. That's our flagship. That's what we're known for. It's a New England IPA, grapefruit, citrus, orange, very cloudy, hazy, very good. Blah, 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 blah. And we go through the tap list of what it is. I do that 45 times a day when I'm bartending. Colby and the rest of the bartenders also do that. There's a lot of times, like Tyler said, that someone will ask a question and you see the look. They go looking for you and you go, oh, okay. And I come over and go, hey, yeah, what's the question about? This beer, that beer, whatever it may be. And I'm very patient with the staff and with customers because it's information. And I think it's important enough that's why in lockdown, when we were doing carry out only, I wasn't bartending as much, so the bartenders could make the majority of the money. And I had some free time, and I spent, I think we did probably 6 to 8 days. I helped brew, or mash-ins, we helped brew, so I could learn more about it, so I could talk to somebody. When somebody says, why is Merc Juice what it is? Or, well, this beer is that way because of this. And I go, well, no, actually it's X, Y, and Z. I think it's very important for the staff to know that, for me to know that, me to know that first, and then to relay that to the staff. I'm very, very hands-on with them. We've got a group chat as well. But every day it's hey guys, I got for this. Hey, this beer's going on tap. Here's your notes. You need to know about it. Hey, here's the cocktail of the week, whatever it is. So I think it's very, very important for them. If someone comes from Cincinnati or Columbus, they don't know about the beer. You want to be able to sell them the beer that they want, so that they're going to like and enjoy the most.
And come back. Yeah.
Come back.
I know, actually, Matt, I want to follow with you. You're probably the most likely to know what this is, because I do not. Michael Moore asked here, getting servers Cicerone trained. I'm probably not saying that right. Yes. Do you know what that is, and do you have any opinion on it?
None of us are Cicerone certified. Early on, it was talked about having me do that. There were some people. I think Grant is Cicerone certified, but I'm not sure. I'm not 100% sure on that. I don't know much about it. I know that the owners do. My sales tactic is not the degree. It's the what do you like? What do you want? I want to be able to explain it to you in a down to earth way. What do you normally drink? Okay, cool. This is probably where you should go. I really don't know much about Cicerone other than it is a certification that's higher up. Seth might know more about that. Honestly, I don't know.
Tyler or Seth, have you considered that certification?
I did before about 4 or 5 years ago. It's something I'd be interested in. I don't know if my palate's broad enough, but you might be able to get there. Seth?
Yeah, for the longest time up at our brew pub and restaurant, we would pay for the tuition. So Cicerone Program, for those that don't know, is sort of like sommelier for wine. It's a course of study that's tiered for education in regards to mostly serving beer, not so much production. There's different programs for that. But when it comes to the Cicerone Program, there was a point in time, and I honestly, I'm pretty far removed from our front of house ops, but there was a point in time where we had pretty much everyone that was on front of house staff at Cicerone certified beer service. So you can walk the walk. You can talk raw materials. You can talk stylistically. The next step up from that is certified Cicerone. So certified Cicerone, there's a proctored exam where you prove that you can walk the walk, talk the talk in regard to beer. A lot of that is around classic styles and history. The Cicerone Program, which if anyone's interested in beer or beer service, look up the Cicerone Program. That's run by some very, very talented folks. For the longest time, there was certified Cicerone, and then there was master Cicerone, trying to hit the top of my frame. Master Cicerone is like master sommelier. If anyone's seen the documentary Somm on Netflix, it's about folks to become a master Cicerone. You have to be able, you have rote memorization of every single thing about beer and the history of beer. They've since added advanced Cicerone, which is the step, because certified Cicerone and master Cicerone were pretty, there was a big gap in between. They've since added advanced Cicerone. If anyone's interested in furthering a career in like front of house service in regard to beer service, classic styles, sensory, all the way down the line, the Cicerone Program is pretty thorough. It's a great education path to follow. My friend Avery of Keeping Together, the brewery blendery in Chicago, she was the first female master Cicerone, and one of, I think, last time I checked, less than 15 total master Cicerones on the face of the earth. And these people are walking encyclopedias. And it's really cool to get to spend time. The Cicerone Program is pretty cool. It doesn't so much apply to me because I'm just a grown-up production scrub, but Cicerone's cool.
It sounds like something.
What's that, Matt?
It sounds like something I should look into then.
Yeah, for sure.
Bethany posted a link to it in the chat for anyone interested.
Nice.
And so if anyone is interested in coming on stage to ask a question, either put it in the chat raise your hand. I'm not entirely sure how that works. And Derek, I think you're going to have to be the one to actually bring them on stage. But Derek, if you can take care of that, great. I did want to ask another question. Michael Vermillion asked about working with Ohio-based companies, and if you try and work with Ohio-based companies. Seth, you mentioned the hops from Cleveland, but I know you've also talked about searching far and wide for the best possible products. So what does that look like for all of you guys in terms of how you source your hops and how you maybe engage professional services? Maybe do you try and stick close to home? What does it look like? I don't even know what the supply of hops looks like maybe regionally, and maybe what that looks like for you guys. So we will start with Matt and then go clockwise, I guess, in that order.
We have done not a lot. We've done some local stuff. Most recently, Rustic Brew Farm. We made a German Pilsner with I don't think it was all organic, but it was all Ohio malts. And then we made a German Pilsner with that. We then took a lightly hand-toasted oak barrel from Speyside Bourbon Cooperage here in Jackson, Ohio, and we put half of that beer in the barrel for 3 months. Oak aged that. So that was Jackson, Marysville, and Jackson again. We've used, I think Grandpop's Hops is somewhere around Columbus. We've used hops from them local. We did a fresh hop beer last year, and we used those. So anytime we have the opportunity to do something cool like that, we do. Right now there's a breakfast stout in the tanks. That is a 5-business collaboration here in Jackson. It's chocolate from Michael's Ice Cream, which is kind of famous. Donuts from the Treatery, which is a newer business here in town. Smoked bacon from the Rowdy Smokehouse, who are good friends of ours. Coffee from the Spot on Main, the local coffee shop, and then us. So, that's 5 businesses all right here in town that we're putting into a beer. I think we'll probably hit our taps in a week, maybe 2 weeks. So anytime we can.
Yeah, 1 week.
Yep.
I'll be looking forward to that. All right. All right, Seth, what do you got in terms of sourcing local?
Yeah, well, it's very important to source locally because I think all 3 of us are really trying to sing the song of Southeastern Ohio and show that there's a bounty here to work with. Mm-hmm. That's important, but also, I want to make sure that Andrew from House Malts, he's thinking about putting a deck on his house. So I'm like, yeah, I'll bring on some more oats. Mm-hmm. It's on one hand supporting your friends. On the other side, it's supporting a place that there's sort of an intrinsic debt to. I'm from here. I'm from this land. I had thought for the longest time that I was going to move to the Pacific Northwest until I wound up with this gig that worked out. But I'm from here, and if I have the voice and the platform and the opportunity to be able to do something, well, damn it, I want to do it. Mm-hmm. And I want to help out our local producers and want to tell the story of this place. Also, yeah, Matt, do you have a connect at Speyside? I want to tour that place.
Yes, I could probably. One of the higher ups, I hired her daughter to bartend. She's a regular. So yeah, if you'd like to. I know Little Fish is just there last week, I think.
Yeah, I know. I saw them posted on Instagram, and I was like, I've just been kind of cold calling them, but it's like
we have an in, and get you that Instagram photo too.
Yeah, maybe we won't barrel age the IPA, but I want to see that joint.
Great to see the connections being made here. I mean, I love that. Because that's exactly it, right? It's about the region. It's about the connections here.
Rising floats all ships.
That's it. I like to see it happen. Tyler, what have you got in terms of sourcing local and what that looks like for Portsmouth Brewing Company?
Yeah, I mean, to play off of what Seth said, you want to keep it local if you can, if it's feasible. So, I mean, our motto is do whatever's feasible. Do what you can, do the most you can when it comes, to local businesses. You want to help out the surrounding area, your friends. When it comes to information too, Seth has helped us out a ton. We've had questions for him, barrel aging. I still remember when I came to Jackie O's to talk about barrel aging and how to get a damn barrel when they were scarce. So,
back in the old pole barn.
yeah, I had a great time. But we have people come in all the time, and we just bought local honey today for our Christmas beer. So anytime we can, we buy local.
Yeah, I like to hear that. All right, I'm going to move us on to what I think is going to be the last question here. And I want to hear your guys' best envisioning of what the craft beer industry looks like moving forward. Do you think that we're going to see more craft breweries? Do you think we're going to see taste moving in a certain direction? When you guys think about what this is going to look like, post-COVID for each of you, be creative with it. Whatever you think is going to happen, let's hear it. This is the future of craft beer in Southeastern Ohio. What's coming next? And we'll go Seth, Tyler, and then Matt. So kick us off, Seth. Let's hear what you got.
I didn't want to go first on that one. That's a pretty loaded. The future of craft beer in Southern Ohio moving forward. We already have a very educated consumer base. I know, Matt, Tyler, you guys have seen that over the years that we've been working with our breweries. We've seen people be able to come in and not be like, "Oh, what do you mean you make it here?" Moving forward, I think we're going to have a more educated consumer. I'm really, really looking forward to that. And moving forward, how we succeed, I think, is being nimble. And being nimble is very difficult for a brewery the size of 6 Cents, a brewery the size of the Portsmouth Brewing Company, a brewery the size of Jackie O's, a brewery the size of Bell's, Founders, Sierra Nevada. Being able to be nimble and to react to ever-changing consumer tastes and not being sticks in the mud. I'm not making seltzer, but being able to react to what our consumers want and listening and being engaged is.
I'm so glad you mentioned seltzer.
we won't talk about the homebrew projects, but
is that a hard no seltzers ever that I'm hearing?
What's that?
Is it a hard no seltzers ever I'm hearing?
Hard no seltzer. Yeah. Maybe that's what we'll call the first one. No. Yeah, listening and being reactive because things change. Obviously, this year put ourselves and every other industry in a crucible, and we've made decisions that we wouldn't have made otherwise. It's asked a lot of us, but I think it's made us really realize the true sense of ourselves. So to circle back to the first question, honestly, that was a positive thing from COVID.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, I just want to be out here for a while.
All right, so we're going to move on to Tyler, and then, kind of like you guys have been doing, if someone says something that sparks an idea you have, jump in and we'll talk about it. Tyler, where do you think craft beer is going? And, obviously I feel like I've got, opinions based on what I like to drink, right? But, this is the reason that we're asking you guys, because you're doing it every day.
No, I think the future of craft beer looks good. Unfortunately, since COVID happened, you have a lot of good craft breweries and even brewers, that are having some hardships that have had to, shut down or close. And I think, the breweries that can weather the storm, I think, when they survive, I think that they'll be able to be more innovative. I know some breweries, like us, we're kind of sticking to our strengths. We're not trying to do anything new. And unfortunately, I think, there'll be some bigger breweries that are typically, innovative and explorative, that kind of cut back as well. I think that they'll keep their identity, and I think after this is over and And when all is said and done, I think craft beer will continue to grow and hopefully, more beers will have different flavors, and everyone will be able to grow and experiment a little bit. Experimenting is kind of tough right now. It really is.
Mm-hmm.
You want to sell what you can, stick to your strengths. For some folks, their strength is, experimenting, and unfortunately they may not be able to do that. So I think that craft beer drinkers will, hopefully, not be too hard on those breweries, and will continue to drink their beer regardless and support them.
Yeah, so that's interesting, because you both are kind of thumbs up on the future of craft beer, and you think that maybe we're gonna have to wait a little bit to see some of that innovation, but you think maybe it'll come back. And Seth, you thought that maybe that being nimble would be a strategy for coping with COVID and getting people kind of interested in what you're doing. So I think that's interesting to talk about.
Yeah, I mean, like what we're doing right now is we're playing to our strengths. We make pretty solid hoppy beer. So in a situation like this, you just have to double down. You have to reinvest. We've had success with getting new hoppy beers out. Well, like, how do we weather the storm? We double down on getting new hoppy beers out. I've bought hop selection, hop harvest just finished up, and I've bought this year more different varieties of hops than I've ever bought in my career, because we found success with that. And it's like, well, let's chase that rabbit. Sadly, we won't be putting a Grotzer called smoked wheat every day in a can, but we're like, that's how we figured out that we're gonna weather this storm of just like doubling down. If y'all want it, y'all got it. And for the folks that are fans of our barrel aged beer, we've got some heaters coming too. But go with what works.
And to kind of play off of Seth, it's unfortunate you have some breweries closing down and stuff, but it also creates opportunities, for some breweries, like Matt buying the canner. They were able to do some things that they weren't able to do before. I mean, like hops. The hops won't be near as scarce. You'll be able to have a better availability of those hops and different grains and such. So I think you'll see some good come out of COVID regarding beer and experimentation, but I don't think there'll be, a lot of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's interesting. So speaking of Matt, what have you got from Sixth Sense or your personal envisioning of the future of craft beer in Southeastern Ohio?
I think several of the things that Seth said, I want to go back to being nimble, listening, and then doubling down on strengths, but not. I think it's important to not just. I mean, right now we're doing a lot of Merc juice in cans, so because we know we can sell it, but we're also experimenting too. So we're going back and forth, and we're making sure that we're doing things that we know we can sell, we know we can move. We just started doing sours not long ago. People are really digging sour beers, and we'd never done it. And so we took the opportunity to start doing sour beers. In the tap room, I'm seeing a lot of people that they'll get a Merc juice or a Foolish Hands, our hoppier beers and our hazy beers, and then they'll go grab a sour, and then they'll come back to another one. And then, honestly, our sales every week, the top sellers on our board in the tap room every week are a blonde ale, a Hefeweizen, a blood orange wheat. And being diverse, like I mentioned earlier, the market is saturated with good beer. I think you've got to double down on what you do well. I got to listen to people, the feedback from the customers, listen to what other people are doing, other industry people, and you got to be nimble. So the word I kept using early on in COVID was pivot. And here's another pivot, and here's another pivot, and here's another pivot. But how many more times are we going to have to pivot before COVID's completely gone? And then does the landscape look the same as it used to? I don't think so. But I do believe that the customers will be more educated. They will be as passionate as ever, if not more. And they'll be hungry and thirsty. And we have to do a good job of supplying them with good product, with excellent service. And I think we're going to see people just keep going, doubling down on what they're doing and doing more of it.
So the sense I'm getting is that there's going to be some consolidation in the craft beer market, but then at the same time, it almost feels like the calm before the storm in terms of innovation for new flavors and new techniques and, just putting new stuff out there. So that sounds interesting. Well, I'll tell you what, Derek, if you are able to jump on and announce the winner of the giveaway of the Ohio Drink Beer Made Here hoodie giveaway, or if not, I think I can announce the winner, I suppose. And okay, awesome, and there we are.
All right.
All right.
So I put everybody's name in kind of this Wheel of Fortune type scenario, and I spun it. And the winner of the hoodie is a participant called Aaron Conley from Sutter County. So thank you, Aaron.
Congratulations.
Be sure to message your shipping info, and we will get that out to you.
Can I ask a question real quick?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's kind of a question from another guest, I guess. But anyway, Seth, have you ever had a Utopia from Sam Adams?
I have. It's a very dynamic, interesting beverage.
What? So describe that to me if you don't mind, because I've always wondered what.
We were in Chicago, Festival of Barrel-Aged Beers 2016. Sam Adams, they were pouring cherry Utopias. And it didn't hit me quite like Fernet or Underberg, but it presented as something definitely a wild departure from what we know as beer. All I remember is it was a while ago, and there were definitely many beers drank that night, including a stout that was aged in a mustard barrel, which is the worst beverage I've ever had in my life. But I just remember thinking, I like this, and I don't know why. At base level, Utopia is a delicious beverage. It's a challenging beverage, though, which, I mean, we all remember when we had our first craft beer. It was maybe a challenging beverage, but you found that there was a intrinsically positive quality to it.
What is this Utopia beer that seems to be so mystical?
Ooh.
Go for it. You know more about it than I do.
So Sam Adams has been around for a very, very long time. They, Greg Cook and those, like their entire team has worked really hard and really flown the flag for craft beverage for a long time. They sought out to find the outer fringes of what beer could possibly be. And Utopias is a massively strong beverage. It's served, I mean, we're all on computers. Anyone listening, you've got Google, you know what's up. But extremely strong beer aged in barrels for a very long time and carefully blended in to create something that really pushes the boundaries of what beer can be. If you've ever gotten on BuzzFeed, the most expensive beer. But it's pricey. It's like what, $200 a bottle or something like that. It's more akin to like an Amaro or something like that. It's very far removed from the beer that we know and work with daily. But I can't give enough credit to Sam Adams for doing that and finding the outer limits of what's possible with beer.
That's really
kind of
interesting.
It's the Pappy Van Winkle of beer, basically.
Yeah.
It's
It's hard to get your mitts on. You can argue as to whether or not Pappy Van Winkle's worth the money, or Utopia's is worth the money, but it's definitely really, really cool to see folks toe the line of the outer limits of what our industry is capable of.
That's fascinating. Tyler, I'm glad you asked that, and Seth, I'm glad you had it, because I would not have been able to respond to that. I've had a distilled beer. That was interesting, but I'm glad people are doing really innovative things with beer. Would you three put in the live chat? If someone wants to shoot you an email and follow up, where can they do that? And then we'll go ahead and call the future of craft beer in Southeastern Ohio, and people will have the ability to stick around in tables if they choose, and I guess talk and talk there. All right. So I want to thank you all for joining. Aaron Conley, if you could direct message Derek, and we'll get you that hoodie. And yeah, thank you all for joining. We're hosting another Entrepreneurial Journey Speaker Series in November that will be about gaming and esports. And Derek, correct me if I'm wrong, we're planning that for November,
12th.
hopefully November 12th. Okay, so stay tuned for more information about that. Okay, thank you all for joining. Derek, take us out.
And big shout to Derek for doing the legwork. It's been awesome working with you guys.
No problem, gentlemen. It was a pleasure having everybody. I'll be at a table, so if you guys want to stick around and chat for a moment, let's do that.